Hello and welcome to A Course in Miracles 365. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and I thank you so much for joining in with me here today on Enlightened World Network. This is so much fun for me, and I have really enjoyed all of the comments, the questions that you all have asked me here on this live stream, and I really want to invite you. If you're going through this and you have questions, I will answer as many of those as I possibly can right here while we're live. And if you're catching the replay, feel free to leave the questions in the comments as well. And I will go back later on in the day and answer those as best I can for you, because this really is, with A Course in Miracles, it really is a community venture. And the Course would literally say it's a joint venture, joined, because we're all one in the end anyway, ultimate truth. So it's great for this. This is exactly the kind of format that I didn't have when I started on the Course. We didn't have this platform. So if you are enjoying this, feel welcome to please share this post out to your friends. Maybe you have people that have been really curious about A Course in Miracles and want to know what it's all about. What is this miracle thing that we have going on here? All right. So thank you for joining me again. And I welcome your comments and thank you for joining in. Now, today we're looking at lesson 16 of the workbook for students, which simply says, I have no neutral thoughts. And you might be wondering, okay, well, that may sound all right. Maybe that's true. Why is this important? It's important because in all walks of life, all of them, without exception, we greatly underestimate ourselves. We completely disregard our power. We disregard our creative ability. We really do. It's as though we have taken it, cast it aside, and chosen to forget about it. It's like that. And in fact, that's exactly what has happened. Our creative ability comes directly from the way we ourselves were created as an extension of God. Nothing more, nothing less. Just that. We're creative by nature, and our thoughts create worlds. Quite literally create worlds. So what does that mean? And what does that look like? Well, we've seen here so far in the workbook that we have a couple of different types of thoughts. That's it. Just two. It may seem like we're thinking about many different things with different gradations of thoughts, some being stronger than others, some being what we would consider weaker or neutral or meaningless, some very strong. Sometimes we have violent thoughts. Sometimes we have angry thoughts. Sometimes we have beautiful thoughts, loving thoughts. Sometimes we want to just smile and extend love to everyone and everybody that we see. We have either thoughts that are loving or that are fearful. It's love or fear. It's God or the ego. It's peace or war, one or the other. And we're so creative by nature, by creation. We're so creative that we literally have the power to make a world. This is beautiful because we have the power to unmake the world of disaster and negative consequences and suffering that we have, in fact, created. I think this is beautiful personally because it takes away any hope of hiding out in a victim mentality. We don't get to say, well, This is just the way it is. And well, I was placed here. All right, Lord, what do I do? Right? What do I do right now? Because, well, the world sucks and I'm struggling. Yeah, poor me, poor me. Right? This is my lot. It's my lot in life. We don't get to do that. We don't get to do that because we're taught repeatedly in this course and other forms of spiritual practice as well that we are creative by nature. We have the power to create worlds. Now, therefore, we have no neutral thoughts. Every thought that we have is either a thought of love or it's a thought of fear. And think about in your own life how this looks. What does this look like? Yeah, that's a good question. What does this look like? How does it feel? Hmm. Well, if you have loving thoughts, how do you feel? You feel good, right? You feel light, you feel lighter, maybe joyful, you're laughing, maybe you want to give everybody a hug, right? It feels a certain way that we've experienced. Fearful thought feels a certain way that we've experienced as well. That may come across as anxiety. It may come across as depression. It may come across as anger or a burning hot sensation in the body. People experience it in different ways. That's a fearful thought. There are no thoughts that are neutral. Even a thought about neutrality itself is not neutral. Why we are constantly judging. And I don't mean that we're constantly judging people. I mean, a lot of us are, and we've all done it. But what I mean by judgment in this sense is that we're constantly assessing and we're constantly labeling thoughts as good or bad, as beautiful or negative. And they're all a part of our experience. In spirituality, contrary to what some people say in this world, you don't get to hide from the dark stuff. It's occurring and reoccurring in all of our lives so that we recognize it for what it is and release it. And in the thought system of A Course in Miracles, it's releasing it to the Holy Spirit, releasing it to God. It's a beautiful process that we'll cover in great detail. The text talks about it in many places. The workbook talks about the process of forgiveness as well. And we will most certainly spend some time on this. It's very wonderful. It's a beautiful and critical process to this thought system. But for today, we have no neutral thoughts. Our thoughts literally can create worlds. We have creative power, naturally. So what world are we, in fact, creating? That's a question. Loving thoughts definitely create a different world than fear thoughts. Loving thoughts lead to peace. Fear thoughts lead to war. They lead to strife among people, among nations, that sort of thing. And it's pretty clear, the Course, the way it lines all of this out. And what we do in practicing the lesson for today is just exactly as the workbook says. Close your eyes for no more than a minute and just notice what you're thinking about. How often do we really do that in life? How often do we really just notice what we're thinking about? We might be surprised. We might be really unpleasantly surprised. You might be surprised to think that you're thinking all kinds of thoughts that are anxious about lack, scarcity. Maybe you're dwelling on a bill that's due, for example, or maybe you're passing judgment at someone. Maybe yourself. I mean, you might be beating yourself up and you realize after just kind of taking a step back and assessing your mind for a minute, like a meditation, just noticing what comes up. Wow, I'm shocked. Or you might have beautiful thoughts. And the workbook just says, my thought about lunch is not a neutral thought. My thought about sunshine is not a neutral thought. My thought about the temperature in this room is not a neutral thought, and so on and so on. And just scan your mind, making sure that if something comes to mind, that you don't leave it out. That's another thing that we do as human beings, is we have a tendency to want to keep certain aspects of our identity and let the others go. We can let some of them go, but we want to keep this one because I really like it. And that's our ego talking to us, isn't it? Yeah, I really want to keep this label. Nah. Ego wants you to, of course. But all of this is an exercise in training our mind so that we notice when the ego is speaking to us, when we notice that we've gone back to a habitual tendency to think thoughts that are fearful. Simply, we have no neutral thoughts. And this is an idea that the workbook tells us we'll come back to. But let's all take heart, because the fear thoughts are not real. We can discuss that as we go forward in days to come, but the fear thoughts are not real. Remember back, all the way back to the introduction that I've talked about a couple of times here. The introduction of the entire course, nothing unreal exists. Fear thoughts are not real, right? Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. So which thoughts are real? The loving thoughts, the peaceful thoughts, the joyful thoughts, the laughter, the connection, positive connection thoughts. Loving thoughts are real, fearful thoughts are not. So let's all take heart in that. That is a very comforting reality when we allow ourselves to accept that. So let's take a moment right here and thank you all for tuning in again. And Deidre, hello, and April, Cindy, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining in. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Because we do have a couple more minutes here on the stream. If you have them, type them in, observations, comments, and yes, Deidre, thank you so much for sharing this. This is a fun component for me. It's a short live stream, but if you have questions, let's take a couple of them right now. And wherever you all are tuning in from, I want to have you just take a look at the show guide for Enlightened World Network every day, because the shows do jump around in terms of time. So yeah, we have no neutral thoughts, which literally means we have the power to create worlds. Now, what does that actually mean? And why am I so smiley and hopeful about this? It's not even hope, it's certainty. Because if we can create negative drama, we can undo it. Right now, in the present moment, we can begin a train, a steam train of loving thoughts that take us in a completely different direction. We can raise our own vibration by thinking loving thoughts right now in the present moment. Next moment, think another loving thought, and so on and so on and so on, and completely change everything about our lives, our entire experience, right up to the very worlds that we see, the very everything can be completely loving. We have the ability to completely flip things on their head. I mean, yes, that means we could choose fear thoughts, but when you've had the experience of loving thoughts, and when you have that permeate your mind stream and your entire being, then it's easier to recognize the fear thoughts and just let them go. Just let them go and let them be. Because that's clearly not the direction that we want to take. Now, habitually, yes, we've been conditioned to think that those are normal. And I mean, in our daily life, we think a lot of fear thoughts. Now, if you're doing the exercise for today and you find that you're thinking a lot of things that you might consider fearful, anxious, negative, that's okay. It's okay. These are just designed to pop in on your mind, take a snapshot, and just make correction right here in the present moment. I have no neutral thoughts. This thought about the light bill is not a neutral thought. And at the conclusion of the practice period, the workbook has us just state this thought about the light bill is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. And this is an idea that the workbook promises that we're going to expound upon, and we will. So if you have further questions or comments, feel welcome to leave them here in the comments section of this live stream. And tomorrow we're going to continue on in the workbook, and we'll be here same time tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern time, and I will start a few minutes after 2. So thank you so much for tuning in with me today. This has been A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. Everyone have a great day.